Bonjour everybody, welcome back to the channel, or welcome to the channel if you're brand new here. So, if you're normally familiar with the shit posts I normally post on here, you're going to be sad if you do like them, as we're no longer going to be doing those, as I'm going to be now doing educational content. By educational content, I mean game design. That is 3D modeling, 3D animation, level design inside of Unreal, and going over all of the cool stuff that goes into game design and the gaming industry as a whole. Now, why this switch up? Mostly because up until a few months ago, I was actually teaching game design, and even though teaching was something I never thought I'd do, genuinely enjoyed it. Probably the best job I've ever had, and probably will have for a long time. But I've had some thoughts, and I want to go into doing some more educational stuff. The camera is tilted at the minute, but hopefully I can fix that in editing. Oh god, if I haven't, I do apologise because it's going to be tilted. But game's a game, it is what it is. Apologise. I will fix that in next videos. Yeah, there we go. But anywho, I digress. So I've had a a request for a video going over university, kind of financial things, all the adulting kind of stuff that goes with university, not just the teaching aspect. Yay. So, well done, you've finally finished college or sixth form, and now welcome to the real world. This is where university begins. So, whilst you're at university, you're going to get you're going to get two things. I'm going to be talking strictly for England at the minute, mostly because I'm English and I've not been anywhere else. Well, I have on a holiday, but again, okay, never mind. So in the UK, well, England specifically, you're going to log into something called Student Finance England, and basically that's where you're going to get all the money that's going to pay for your course. So it's split into kind of two. So you've got the money that you obviously get for your course. You're not going to see a single penny of that. That's kind of what you end up paying back once you start earning a certain amount. But then you get something called a maintenance loan. And a maintenance loan is a beautiful thing that you will actually see. So, hopefully, again, editing magic, you'll see it up on screen and stuff like that. But what you'll actually get is a set amount of money. This will be spread out over the year, so you'll have it for the 3 years if you're doing a typical course. It could be more or less, but it's never going to be less than 3 years, but it could be more depending if you're doing a master's or maybe starting on a, what's it called, foundation year. And again, if anyone wants videos on stuff like foundation years, masters, anything like that, I am welcome to do those as well. Welcome, open. That's what I mean. I'm open to doing those as well. Just drop a comment down below to let me know kind of the sorts of videos that you're interested in or want to see. But yeah, so the maintenance loan, I believe is around 10 grand if you're living on campus, or within the vicinity of where it is you're going to university, and around 8 point something grand if you're living at home. Now, obviously, the reasons for the different prices are if you're living away from home, you've obviously got to pay for everything. That's food, rent for wherever it is that you're living or staying, anything like that. And typically, if you're not staying on campus and you're commuting, then you're typically living at home and probably will have help from people that you're living with. So you will get a little bit less, but not too much, if that makes sense. Now, all of the way that works is off of household income. So the more household income you get, obviously the less that you're going to get financial help with, really. Again, it's very, very minute unless you've got like incredibly rich parents. It's not really going to affect you too much, but that is something to take into consideration. So I believe, I did university in 2016, which makes me feel incredibly old. Yep. And again, anyhow, I'm going on a tangent. But when I did it, the money was split into, I believe, 3 payments. There's like 3 terms at uni. Pretty much, like I think there is at every educational thing. So you've got your first term, which will be September to December, then you've got normally January, I think, till April or May, and then May until July. So those will be like your main payments. So that, say, 10 grand, for example, will be split 3 times. Now, here's the sad thing, is a big chunk of that, probably around half, is going to go to paying your living costs. Which is not great, let's be honest, but the game's the game, it is what it is. You can't really fight against that. I'm going to go for an example, and I'm going to use Staffordshire University. I'm only doing that because I went there myself, so I kind of haven't. I should know how it works and how all that kind of financial stuff and how to kind of help people. Mostly that, and it's the best place for games design. Just being biased, or should I say not being, just because I'm an alumni and everything. But yeah, majority of that money, or at least half, or anything like that, is going to go on living expenses. Now, at Staffs, and I'm sure at many other universities as well, like I said, I'm just speaking from my experience and hoping that can come across to a lot of you people watching. But Staffs, for example, has 3 different accommodation places. So you've got halls, houses, and then private accommodation. The private accommodation is still halls, but you're living with less people and you've got your own ensuite. Houses, obviously you're living with certain people and you all share the bathrooms. Halls, you're living with I'll get into that, but so you'll end up paying obviously certain amounts. I think when I started, the halls was the cheapest at like £109 a week or something like that. But what you'll do is you'll actually pay in bulk. So when you get that first payment, what will happen is you will pay for the first pretty much 4 months. So that September to December payment. You'll literally pay for the first 4 months of you living there. That will include everything though, so electricity, gas, water, all that kind of cool stuff. You don't have to worry about that too much at any of the properties really, at pretty much every university I believe. And then what you'll have is obviously the rest of the money. I might try and do some stuff on some examples on the screen. I'm not sure because I'm obviously not editing this right now. Maybe future Luke can clue you in on that, but we'll see. So once you've got the rest of your money, it's basically up to you how you want to spend it. Obviously, there's many different things that you can spend your money on. Myself, for example, not great at spending, but I actually, accidentally spent around £100 on Yu-Gi-Oh cards in one day when I was at uni. Mostly just because for a lot of people, though, you might not have had a job before or anything like that, and getting a big lump sum of probably like £3,000 or something stupid like that, it's gonna make you feel like, okay, I've got money, I need to go out and spend it. And it can, if you're not careful, you can spend a lot of it really quickly. Obviously, when I went to uni, things were a bit cheaper than they are now, of course. But it was still the same. It was the most money I'd ever had, and yeah, Yu-Gi-Oh cards were kind of calling my name, and it's in the whole little thing with a flat that I was living in, and that's not part of this video. But I'm just saying, you need to be mindful of stuff like that. This video is getting really tilted. Hang on. Let me see if I can change that. There we go. Hopefully that's not messed up with the hopeful editing that I'm going to do with this. But again, that's future Luke's problem. So have fun with that. But what you can do is, I'd recommend, trying to make friends with the people that you're living with, or if you're going to university with people that you're already friends with, amazing. What we did at university was, I was living in the hall, so I think I lived with like 9 or 10 other guys that was on like my floor level, and we got on for the most part. And what we ended up doing was, we'd actually share some of the money towards food and stuff like that. For example, once a week we might have a little get together where we, you know, maybe one person buys some ingredientry and then cooks, and then the next week somebody else does it, kind of thing, and you share that responsibility. Speaking of, food shopping, the adult stuff, there is an Aldi quite close to staff's uni. You can either walk the long way, or you can do what everybody did and cut across the field. There's a little bridge at the very bottom. You walk over that bridge, go through some little wooded area, and you come out on a hill. Pretty much walk a little bit further down, and you come out pretty much slap bang by Aldi. If it's still there, I really hope it is, because that was a lifesaver. But yeah, try and choose, cheaper alternatives for food. So, if you want to splash out and go for, like, Sainsbury's or, Morrison's or what's it called, M&S, then, you do you. But financially, when you've not got massive amounts of money and you need to keep it stored for about 16 weeks, then maybe opt for the cheap alternative. Aldi, Lidl, they've got cheaper alternatives to pretty much everything, really. And I'm quite a fan of Aldi and pretty much lived there when I was at uni, so did pretty much everybody else that I knew. A lot, to be honest, instant noodles are probably going to be one of your best friends as well, to be completely honest. They're cheap, they're quick, and when you're, trying to do lessons and all this kind of stuff, you might not have time to go home and make something really fancy. So just keep that in mind, food-wise. That's pretty much the only real thing that you'll have to pay for. Like I said earlier on, electricity, gas, water, all that's already paid for in the price of the accommodation. So don't worry too much about that. Just food, really. But like I said, go for cheaper alternatives. Maybe, like I said, share some of the responsibility with your housemates. If, obviously, you feel comfortable doing that, at the beginning it might be a little bit iffy anyway. Now, when you get to uni, your student loan and maintenance and everything like that might not kick in straight away. I don't know whether it's changed now, but I know back when I started uni, I think it was about a week, maybe 2 weeks before anyone's maintenance loan come in. It really depends on your bank, or it did anyway. I don't know whether it still does. So maybe trying to save up a little bit of money beforehand, or seeing if family members or anything like that can help you out would again be great. Or again, if you're friends with the people that you're living with, maybe you can all help one another out, which would go a long way. Now, when it comes to like budgeting and stuff, that's gonna be again really, really important. And the camera's going wonky again. God damn it! There we go. Basically, what I'm using is my phone on a tripod on a curved monitor, which is not great. And to be fair, the tripod it's on is literally a £5 tripod. So it's not exactly the most expensive thing in the world, but I didn't want to spend that much money, so because I'm cheap, which really helps at university and going along with this topic. But budgeting, for example. So what I did, and what many of the other people that I live with did, and we found this really useful, was, so you'll have your money left over after you've paid, obviously, rent, accommodation, all that sort of payment. You'll have your money left over. Now, it's good kind of to split that between about 16 weeks, I think, is until you get like your next real payment of maintenance loan. So, say for example, if you get, 3.4 grand maintenance loan, probably about half that is going to go onto the actual living expenses, and then obviously whatever is left is yours to play with. Again, Future Luke, please try and put something up here as a visual aid to go along with what I'm saying. Otherwise, it's not going to make much sense at all. Oh God, you can tell. Like, I kind of planned a video, but I haven't really gone into specifics. I've not come up with like a script or anything because that's not what I do. I just talk. Basically that's what I do. I just chat utter. Yeah, I'm not going to finish that sentence, but what I'm also going to do is, if enough people do like this, I might start a Discord channel as well. So that would be anyone that's interested could join it, showcase your work, your artwork, your 3D models, concept art, anything like that, and it'd just be a space for everyone to come together, have a bit of a chat, build a bit of a community together, and I'd obviously be there, and I'd give help and advice on anything that you guys would need. On that note, you can also add me on LinkedIn. I'll drop a image or a link or anything like that, so you can add me on there. Again, feel free to add me, ask me some questions if you want to. That's perfectly fine, not a problem. But back onto the thingy. Sorry, I've gone on a tangent again. But budgeting at uni. So say for example you get 3.4, half of that goes on to your student living. So you've got 1.7 left, something like. I'm not going to do the math right now. Again, future Luke, have fun with that. But then that's yours. So then if you divide that by 16, for example, that will give you exactly how much you've got then a week to basically live on. That's the best way to do it. Don't think, oh, I've got 1.7 grand. I can spend it all willy-nilly kind of deal on whatever I want. Now, if you want to do that, you do that. I know people that they got their maintenance loan and spent it on an iPhone and then barely had any money left to really spend it on. But that's what I'm saying again. For a lot of people, it's going to be the most money they've got. So you have got to be careful and think kind of rationally about it if you can. If you are having, doubts and worries and stuff, again, if people want it, I can make the Discord and we can have a bit of a chat. I'm open to one-to-ones at times. I do have a full-time job, so that will be a little difficult at times, but I'll do what I can. But what you can do is, so that 1.7 grand left, for example, split that between 16 weeks. I'm, again, not going to do the maths because I cannot be bothered. But I'm just going to make up a random number and say you've got 150 quid a week, for example. Probably more than that, but I'm just going for £150 a week. So it'd be great, obviously, have at it. But what could also help, and I found did help at university quite a bit, was I actually took the money out. I did have a bank card, and obviously many of the people watching this will have a bank card because everyone and their mothers have someone nowadays. Wasn't really like that back then, but obviously it is now. That's a story for another day. So 150 quid, but what you could do is, instead of taking out the 150 quid, is take out 80 or 100, so you've still got that 70 to 50 quid left in the bank, and only spend that cash, because the problem is, everyone's got the apps on their phones or their cards and stuff, and so when you go out and you start spending money, because it's not a physical thing that you're spending, you can go off and spend God knows how much. But if you've got like the physical cash, you'll tend to spend a little bit less, just because you're actually having to give them a physical thing and you can see just how much you're spending. So that's a good kind of deterrent sometimes, which is quite helpful. Or what you could do is say, a good thing is, if you've got a bank account, amazing, but go to certain other banks as well, ask if you can set up a student account, so that obviously you get like a different card and stuff for it. But a student account, I went with NatWest. Great. They gave me a student overdraft of about £2,000, interest free, which I cannot tell you genuinely how much it saved me having that safety net to kind of fall back on. Especially with me buying Yu-Gi-Oh cards at £100. But yeah, what you can do is you can go into any. I think you might be able to go into most banks. I know NatWest, again speaking from experience here. Go in, ask if you can set up a student bank account. That would help, because obviously you'd have that sort of like safety buffer as well, and it would be a separate card to your main one. And then what you could do is when you do get your maintenance loan and all the money's come out, you could chuck it all into, say you want to pay stuff on your main account and not on your student card, for example. Then you could take all of the money, put it on your student account, so using a mobile app or anything like that, and then just say, I don't know, once a week take let's say again like 80 to 100 quid out, and then leave the rest, ignore it, forget about that card for a week, and then just use your normal card, which you should be used to anyway. Don't put your student card on your phone or anything like that, because then you could just start tapping in, and that idea is useless then. Just keep it on your main card, and then, you've got it there. Obviously, again, you could go into kind of some spending habits again. But it's just sort of, you've got to find ways of trying to like kind of cope with it really. Again, try and get over that initial shock of how much money you're going to actually get. Because it will come. Everybody's probably experienced it, especially if they don't have a job beforehand. I know I didn't. And it was a lot of money for me, and I genuinely did want to go off and spend a lot of it, which I did. But then, I'm older, I've got a house, I've got stuff that I need to pay for, and so I kind of understand the importance of budgeting and saving up, because that final installment of pay that you get, so that third one, that will then have to last you from, like June, maybe like May, June area, all the way up until September when you go back to uni. So that can be quite a big one, because, you've got your summer holidays and stuff like that, so you could be off spending God knows what, so you, again, be very careful and mindful of that. Try and put up, that's why it's good to try and put up some money if you can. Again, it helps if you go with people that you know, because maybe, again, you can like go halves on food shopping, for example. If you all eat relatively similar stuff, then there's no harm in that. Go to Aldi, for example. Say there's 3 of you. You go, say you all eat the same sort of stuff, spend about 50, maybe 60 quid for a week on food shopping. I know that sounds like a lot, but it kind of is what it is now. Or it might be less, I don't know, it depends how much you guys eat or what you eat or anything like that. Typically, I think frozen food is typically a little bit cheaper than fresh stuff, because obviously it's mostly crap, let's be completely honest. But yeah, if you, 50, 60 quid and split that between 3 people, it's really not that much at all. The most it's going to cost you is like £20 each, and that's a week. That, if you've got 80 to 100 quid and you use 20 of it, you've still got 60 to 80 pound to basically kind of do what you want with. Again, going to speak from experience, go to Staff's Uni. They've got various different things on the actual campus itself. Again, I'm not sponsored by Staff's Uni or anything like that. I'm just an alumni, and so I'm using that as an example because I know how to talk about it. But those are kind of some of the things that you need to take into consideration when going to university and thinking about, how much you're going to get. Like I said, again, with a major exam, unless your parents or anything like that are like genuinely like really well off, you will get a decent amount of money. It's more than I got. I mean, the max you could get back then was about 8.9, something like that. Yeah, so, something like that. And someone I lived with, his parents were both doctors, so he did get a bit of a decent less, but he still got a fair bit. He just spent most of it on random crap, really. So we did, but as long as you try and be mindful of, certain things, and try not to just spend it all willy nilly because you can, really. Try and set some money aside. Go halves with things with your friends, for example. You know, it's honestly, it's just stuff like that. It's really simple things. If you want to treat yourself, go for it. At the end of the day, it's your money. If you want to go out and spend it on, like I did, Yu-Gi-Oh cards. None of them were worth anything, but it was what I wanted to spend it on. I still had enough money to then go out and do stuff. And it might be worth potentially looking at part-time jobs whilst you're at uni. I know obviously you're doing your course and everything like that, but I know game design specifically, the hours that you do per day aren't actually that long, so you would have some time to go off, relax, chill, and maybe have 5-10 hours a week or something, get some random job. I know a lot of unis have on-site campus stuff that they will only hire students, so maybe you could apply for one of those. But a lot of people are going to be applying for them, so keep that in mind. But yeah, it's just going to be trying to do the simple stuff, really. Try and budget as much as you can. Put some up aside. Make sure you've got a bit of a savings that you can fall back on. Like I mentioned earlier on, if you've got 150 quid a week, only take out a certain amount and be like, okay, I've literally only got this much to spend and live on for this week. I'm only going to spend that. Ignore the rest of it if you can. And then if you do need the extra money, you've got it then, kind of thing. Because you've not already spent it because it's in your bank account already there. Okay, there's some people screaming outside. Hopefully you can't hear that. But yeah, I don't want to go on for too long, and this is already nearly half an hour. I can tell because I'm doing it on my phone, and you can see that it's got the timer. And obviously I don't want to keep you for too long. This is literally just a short, gonna try and keep it a short, simple video about budgeting and stuff at university. If you do have any questions, feel free, again, drop them in the comments. Follow me on LinkedIn, all that kind of stuff, and I'll do what I can. But for now, enjoy the rest of your day or evening or whenever this video goes out, because I'm not entirely sure. I'm recording this on a Sunday evening, so yeah. I hope you all have a wonderful day if you're at the beginning of your day, or hope you've had a great day and going to have a great afternoon or evening if you're in that time of the day when this goes out. Anywho, au revoir, people, and have a good one.